Most leaders are missing two foundational pillars, and frankly, it's costing them. I'm Dave Farley, and in my 12 years as a Fortune 500 vice president, I saw these mistakes destroy more careers than anything else. Pillar number one of Dr. Deming's 14 points is constancy of purpose. If you are only managing for this month's numbers, you aren't leading, you're just reacting. Dr. Deming taught me that without a long-term vision, you're really building on sand. Pillar number two is a new philosophy. The old way of management by results is a dead end. You have to stop accepting good enough as the standard. These two pillars help me to produce an industry-leading ROI. Let's look at the first pillar in more detail. Before Dr. Deming's teachings, I was a spreadsheet manager. I chased the monthly targets that corporate threw at me because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. I'd been trained by a person who did the same thing before me. If you run a small business, you might not have a CEO looking over your shoulder, but I bet you're still probably heavily focused on the short term. How's the revenue this month? How's the expenses this month? It's always top of mind. I had been to 2 Deming seminars, and most of my management team had attended one, and our mindset, our vision for what our division should be doing had begun to change. I still had to satisfy my CEO by attempting to hit those monthly revenue numbers, but within our division, we began to think more long-term with an idea that we needed to address some topics that we had not done before. Okay, you might be thinking, Dave, sorry, but I really have some short-term goals that I have to hit. I don't have time for this constancy of purpose thing you're talking about. Honestly, I thought the same thing until I realized that chasing the short term was actually a huge career killer. It's what keeps you in a cycle of fighting fires instead of building for the future. Here's a management shift that actually moved the needle for me. Me and my team made a decision to, whenever possible, not only put out the fire, but to devote our efforts to focus on innovating or changing the process that caused that fire. And 2, financially supporting innovation, research, and additional education for our team and our staff. But a purpose without a budget is just a wish. We didn't just say we cared about the future, we funded it. I carved out resources for research and education even when the short-term results were screaming for my attention. I took it on the chin a few times, but that's what I did. That's what we did. Since I wasn't the CEO, I didn't have a lot of latitude, but being in a very decentralized corporation, I had enough flexibility to put Dr. Deming's principles to work. We started slow and small, but as we moved forward, it began to build and it began to show up in our monthly numbers. To me, creating a constancy of purpose is like driving a stake in the ground, a really big stake that tells your staff and your customers and your suppliers, this is what we do today, tomorrow, and into the future. And as a management team, you need to do this today, and you need to do it, more importantly, for tomorrow. A long-term stake in the ground. This commitment includes striving to allocate resources for long-term planning so that the customer's happy today, but he's more important, he's happy in the future. And your business continues to grow and to provide jobs. Obviously, this is planning for your future, and it's not something that should be taken into lightly. Think about this. But having a stake in the ground is one thing, But if you still have an old mindset, your team will probably forget about that steak. You need to get a new philosophy. And this is where I had to get a little radical and reset my division's mindset. In my business back then, and in most businesses today, the old management philosophy is still strong. It's kind of like the dark force. It's a belief that mistakes are just going to happen. They're part of business, and that delays are inevitable, and that good enough is fine as long as we hit our monthly or our quarterly target numbers. Since I had total P&L responsibility for my division, I and most of my team realized that if we kept accepting those defects, we were simply just paying a failure tax on everything that we did. I sat down with my team and I said, Deming told us we need to put out the fires, but we also need to stop looking for who to blame. Who did this? Who's responsible? Let's get them in here. Let's talk to them. That's the old management style coming out. And we needed to start looking at the process that allowed that mistake to happen in the first place. Adopting this new philosophy is what enabled us to climb from generating acceptable numbers to generating industry-leading numbers. I told my managers, from now on, we don't blame people. We look at the process. If a shipment was late or a quality report didn't come in on time or didn't come in like we expected, we don't just sit down with the manager or the supervisor and give them a lecture. We look at the flow chart. We look at the process. We ask what happened in our system to allow this to happen. Because I had the autonomy to run my division this way, my team began to trust me even more. They stopped hiding errors. Instead, they started bringing me ideas on how to fix these things. We weren't just working hard anymore, we were very much working smarter. We were trying to remove that old-time mindset. One other thing that I did that I must share with you. Without asking my department heads for their approval, I casually walked around and chatted with one or more entry-level people in each of our departments. I put this question to them. Is there any type of equipment or technology that you could use to make your job more enjoyable or more efficient or more profitable? After a few moments to consider my question, most of the time the response was something like this. I can't think of anything. During the next meeting with my department heads, I shared my experiment and told them that we have to change that. They, meaning the people that I talk to, they think that we have all the answers to improve the processes. We don't. We need their input because I'm sure they know their job better than we do. I said we, including myself, have effectively turned off the minds of our team. Turning those minds back on was part of the secret that helped us generate a high ROI. When was the last time you asked your entry-level employee how to make their job more enjoyable or more efficient or more profitable? If you've ever done that, I would love to hear about that in the comments. In the next video, we're moving from the mindset to the mechanics. I'm going to show you how we stopped 2 profit leaks in our division by using Dr. Deming's point number 3, ceasing dependence on inspection, and point number 4, ending the lowest bidder trap. If you're still paying people to find mistakes after they happen, or letting your purchasing department buy cheap parts that will cost you in the long run, you're bleeding cash. I'm going to show you how we killed those habits and at the same time doubled our industry standard returns. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please subscribe or hit the like button below, and don't miss the next video on the mechanics of how to generate a high ROI. And if you've ever been burnt by a low-cost vendor, or if you've ever had a quality disaster, again, we'd love to hear about that in the comments. Let's start working together to turn those minds back on. Thank you for watching, and be sure to tune in every Friday for your management tip. Have a good day.